Hello everybody, welcome back to the Stacey West Preview Show. I am your host, Jake Tong. We're here for another Sky Bet League One preview. Before we get into all that, please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share this with your mates, do whatever you do. Burton Albion on Saturday, a happy hunting ground most of the time for Lincoln City. And we've got Ed Walker from the D3, D4 podcast. He was a little bit reluctant to come on based on the recent results. You can see there he's got his head down. He's not engaging at all. But Ed, how are you?
I'm fine now. Tomorrow and Saturday's a different story, but we'll see. I hate playing Lincoln. I hate it. I absolutely hate Lincoln games. I'm just going to go out there straight away. Just
good to talk some football. How are you finding? I know obviously you don't go to many Burton away games, stuff like that, but you've been travelling League Two quite a bit, haven't you? You've been around the country this weekend, haven't you? Last weekend.
It's been lovely being able to go back to games, as we weren't able to do, of course, for all of last season. I've done every Burton away game I possibly can. I've had to miss a couple because of COVID and jury service, but I always like the away days. You know, just the variety of the grounds, the travel. Don't always carry the memories. Admittedly, this season our away record hasn't been that strong, but there's just something about away games and just visiting different places rather than the same thing every week that I quite like.
Let's get into Burton's season so far. Then 11th in the table. You said the most unpredictable team to predict in the division at the moment.
One of definitely.
Tell me the story of Burton Albion so far this year.
There's a bit of me that feels ready for next season. It's the basic way to summarise it. There's a bit of me that feels like where we are now is where we're going to end up. In the simplest sense, it feels at the minute, 11th on the table at the moment. If you're below us, lower down the table, we're going to beat you. If you're around us, we're going to draw with you. If you're above us, you're going to beat us. That's the simplest way it kind of feels at the minute. You know, you go back 12 months, we were rock bottom of the table. I think we just started pulling out the bottom of this stage. What Hasselbank and Murray did when they came in was a quite miraculous turnaround. I can't really still believe they've done it. And what they've done now over the last couple of windows is really reduce the average age of the side. We've moved on a lot of the experienced heads. You've seen Michael Boswick moved on to loan to Stevenage. Lucas Aikens has gone to Mansfield. Probably the only experienced head now in the team is John Braith, the club captain who plays at the back. And we're bringing in a lot of young players on either loans or permanent deals. So it's clearly a squad that's building towards the future. And whilst I think we're competent at League One level, we've got a way to go still till I think we're up with those top teams at the moment. So I say it's a season in progress. Definitely compared to last year, it's a lot more positive. But it does kind of feel like we need a seriously strong run of form if we're going to get anywhere in those playoffs, and it's probably too soon for that to happen.
Yeah, I seem to think that sort of the appointment of Hasselbank and Dino came shortly after the game at Sinsel last year when we beat 5-1.
That was the penultimate game. You had the 5-1, of course, which was horrible. And we played the Wigan on the Tuesday or the Wednesday afterwards at home. Led 3 times, lost all 3. Buxton was gone after that. Yeah. So it was one of the clever ones.
So 21-22 then, it's been better. It's been a better start, like we said last time. What's been your highlight of this year?
Probably the first 3 games.
Did you win them all?
You don't win anything after 3 games, but we started off with 3 straight wins. We beat Shrewsbury 1-0 away, very good result. And then you go and beat Ipswich and Sunderland in back-to-back home games, 2 of the pre-season promotion favourites.
Yeah.
And we were doing that without a recognised striker up top. We were playing a Murray Patrick up there, who's more naturally a winger. He's gone back to Carlisle now. The transfer that says he hasn't worked. But there was a lot of confidence, really, because we had a bit of an injury problem where we kept losing a player every other game. And it kind of felt like we're doing really well now, and we're not even full strength yet. So there was a bit of optimism around what could happen there. And it's kind of faded away since, really. I think I'm not really surprised to be where we are. I think there's been some very good wins, but there's also been some pretty low performances. Going to Wigan is one that particularly comes to mind. We went to the DW, lost 2-0, down to 10 men for over an hour. It was like a training practice to Wigan. They just passed it round, occasionally went on the attack. If Burton got the ball, it was just cleared straight back to them.
Yeah.
That's probably the most one-sided game I can remember this season. The problem is we've had a few defeats, where we've gone on away trips and not even tested the goalkeeper. And that's the big frustration, really. So there's been some good mix, but there's also some quite high highs and some quite low lows, I'd probably say so far.
Yeah, obviously, you mentioned those sort of results at the start of the season. We'll touch on our game at the start of the season as well. It was I know you probably won't want to. It was the 2-1 win for Lincoln at the Pirelli, going 2-1 up, and then Conor Shaughnessy scored from a corner, and it looked like you might just get something. But Josh Griffith seemed to do what you would have come accustomed to last year, wasn't he, when he was at Cheltenham and pulled off some worldly saves in the last sort of 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah, that's been a feature of the season as well. Actually, I can think about a couple of times where we've been able to recover for some points. If we go a goal behind, we've been able to recover. Recently against Gillingham, for instance, we went a goal behind and won 3-1, went a goal behind to Wimbledon and steal the point. But if we go 2 down, it's gone, as far as I'm concerned. I remember going 2-0 down to Plymouth Argyle. We get a goal in the second half to make it close. We go 2-0 down to Wickham, get a goal back to make it close again. We've got this real issue with shipping early goals, and particularly in the first half, we don't seem to have a complete 90-minute performance at the minute. It's either an okay first half and then a stronger second half. Seem to be a lot stronger after half time than the first half, but the first half is when the good teams do a lot of damage to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at Burton's sort of key men, then I've had a few names. I've written 4 names down. I mean, you'll be able to tell me more than what I will know. But Jefferson is a name that sort of stuck out. Obviously on loan from Sheffield United. I've put Shaughnessy. I think he's been quite solid for you guys at the back. Terry Taylor's a player that I really liked when he was at Wolves, and obviously he signed him from there. And then Powell, who scored a couple of really nice goals before COVID we even knew what it was. So, yeah, just talk to us a little bit maybe about those 4, maybe about players that have stood out for Burton so far this year.
Yeah, there's a good quartet there, certainly. Jefferson's quickly emerging into key man material, really. You have to remind yourself he's only 18 years old sometimes, because he does do so much. He's got the build to be a really, really complete striker. He's quite slim with his build, I'd probably say. He's certainly got the height to be an effective striker.
Ignore him, don't worry.
Yeah. He's got the height to be an effective striker, yeah.
Thanks.
There's a lot of growth you can see in his all-round game. You compare him to the player who arrived in August from Sheffield United and what he is now. His hold-up play is very good. He runs the channel superbly. He's brilliant on the press. He's relentless in the press. And he's got a very good finishing instinct as well. He's our top scorer at the minute on 7-9 in all competitions. So he's going really well. And there's no doubt for me that there's a very good player in there that potentially Sheffield United could make use of next season. We'll have to see with that. I'm very curious what's going to happen in the summer with him.
Yeah.
Conor Shaughnessy you mentioned as well.
Yeah, Shaughnessy, yeah.
Shaughnessy. I think Shaughnessy to me is potentially player of the season candidate. He's just been the model of consistency. We had him on loan originally from Leeds United 2 seasons back pre-COVID, and he'd impressed there under Clough. And I remember feeling really happy when he re-signed as well. And he's someone who can just slot into the back 4 or into midfield, and he's just a solid defensive presence. And he's been out of the team a bit recently because we have got quite a lot of centre-back options now, which wasn't the case before when you got him, Sam Hughes, Dejo Shalaja, John Braithwaite, Karen Baltic-Jackson can play there at times as well. There's a lot of options at the centre-backs now, so he's not a guaranteed starter, but he's been a role of consistency, really, and his set-piece threat has been a big one as well. We are a team that I think really has a much bigger set-piece threat than from open play, certainly. I think open play a lot of times we're left wondering where the creativity really comes from, but from set-pieces, certainly we are a team that can really, really hurt people.
Yeah, and then Terry Taylor and Joe Powell.
Yeah. Terry's, again, a really young one who's still got, I think, another year at the end of the season when the contract's done. He's quickly becoming my favourite player. Someone who sits a bit deeper in midfield, very good receiving the ball under pressure and turning his man, and some quite sensible distribution, I think. He's not been at his best probably in the last couple of games, I think, but that's part of being a young player. I think he'll suit better opponents to others, but he has been regularly featuring in midfield now alongside Tom O'Connor, who's been one of our other candidates maybe for the player of the season so far, one of the top scorers in the team, had a knack for scoring direct from corners as well, had a couple of games back-to-back against Morecambe and Fleetwood where he scored straight from the corner flag, and I think he had a free kick against Doncaster as well, which went all the way through. So That's another impressive part of young midfield, and they're both players who are going to be under contract for a while yet. And then Joe Powell, as you mentioned as well, who I'm still not entirely sure we're going to have at the end of this window, because he is in the last 6 months.
Is he rumoured to go up or
there's
down?
all the talk about it. He's got 6 months left on his current deal.
Yeah.
So if the opportunity to cash in is there, it's now, unless there's a new deal coming, which I don't know if there is. We'll have to see. But he's probably, for me, the prime creator in the team, the most technical midfielder. The one he's featured recently in a kind of attacking midfield role. And when he gets on the ball and he's able to carry it, he carries it very well. He's very good carrying the ball upfield under pressure. Set piece distribution is fantastic. His set piece delivery is excellent. I think if we are going to do anything in the second half of this season, he needs to play as often as possible, because he is the key man. And as you say, we saw a glimpse of him. You go back to, 2 years now to that game at Cecil Bank, the 3-2. Got a brace, of course, in that. I think that was our second to last game before COVID, and we had a game against Bolton before that. But that was an example of what Joe Powell's done. In the 2 years since, he's kind of not featured as heavily as I probably want him to. Yeah. So if we've got 6 months left on his current deal, I want to make use of what we got, certainly.
And obviously, with the window, you said you'd rather keep him around. Are there clubs interested in Powell?
Oh, you hear stories, don't you? I don't know. He's definitely a player for me who has the potential to play in the Championship. He's still only 22, 23, I think. Still such a young player. Yeah. And as I say, 6 months, I believe, left on the current deal. If we are going to cash in on him, it's going to be this window. So we'll see what happens. He might be gone. I hope he stays around. But I do think if we're going to do anything in the second half of the season, he's going to play a big part in that, certainly.
Yeah, obviously came through at West Ham with Anthony Scully in the same sort of team as Declan Rice as well. January, then you've signed a couple of players over the course of the window.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about these. I know you've lost Patrick and
they've been fitting in with the theme of really the approach that's been going on with recruitment. A couple of youngsters. One of them is Williams Kakolo, who's a young French left back who was from Middlesbrough. I think we were initially expecting it to be a loan deal, ended up being a permanent signing, which is very good. I think wing back for me has probably been one of our weaker parts in terms of the personnel we've had. We've had Cameron Borthwick-Jackson playing out there, who has definitely improved recently, but I still think haven't felt completely sold on him in that role. He's kind of someone who's I'm trying to think of the way to describe it. He's kind of been playing a different game to others at times, if that's the best way I can describe it. You can clearly see the identity, what target of the passes, and sometimes he'll play a ball in field when you're expecting it down the channel, or a ball that goes out of play, trying to play down the channel. But he is certainly improving. And I think Kakolo adds a much more dynamic option there, which in the system we need a dynamic player. Because on the other side, you've got Tom Hamer, who is an absolutely brilliant defender, but not really an attacking wing back. He's just not built for it. He can deliver a good cross, and he plays partly because of the throw-in he provides, which we try to make use of. Yeah, I think try's the best word. We generally, if we had good conversion rates on that throw, you could probably add another 20 goals onto our season tally. We get so many of them, and it is. I still think it's quite predictable for a lot of teams. Really, there's some teams that I remember playing Crew at home, and the Crew couldn't handle it at all, but Crew really aren't built to deal with that kind of thing. But I think other opponents really are kind of sussed out what's going to happen with it, so the consistency and the conversion rate isn't really there. But he plays because of that threat he offers, and the fact that he is just an excellent defender as well in physical and defensive battles. So Kakolo is a good addition to the wing-back role, certainly in the long term, as someone I think who could be a very dynamic option in the system. And then the other new boy is Ghassan Ahadme, a Spanish-born Moroccan striker. He was on trial with Portsmouth in pre-season, had exceptional pre-season form. There were a lot of people saying he was going to be League One top scorer. Yeah. Nope. I think he got one EFL Trophy goal for Portsmouth during his loan there from Norwich. But we bought him now from Norwich. So he needs to grow. It's quite similar to Jefferson, actually. To be honest, you see them side by side. And you can't see the numbers. You get them mixed up because they look very, very similar in terms of how they build and how they play as well. I've only seen a little bit of him so far. I watched him against MK Dons on Tuesday. He had two horrible misses. One, a header, which was great and just bounced off the post. The other one, a point-blank range save that was saved by Jamie Cumming. On another day, that might well have gone in. But again, he's only 21. He's a player who hopefully will grow with the team.
A couple of days left of the window then. It appears from a Lincoln point of view, we seem to be done for the window. We've got our business done early. Burton, are they the same? Are you expecting many faces in the building between now and the end of the month?
I mean, there's always the chance. We've had there's a couple of loan options open. We did have Ellery Balcom on loan, who was just not a successful goalkeeper, and then had Harry Chapman as well on to Blackburn, and that didn't work out. So I think there's a couple of spots maybe for loan signs to come in. We're quite close to the squad limit, I think, at the minute, with Louis Moult finally becoming fit and able to play. He made his debut off the bench at MK Dons, and hopefully he'll finally get back up to speed in the next couple of months as well. And then adding Sam Hughes in there, who'd been out for a long time and is now regular in the back three as well. And much like last season, it's just so dependable for us. I think part of the reason we lost 5-1 at Lincoln last season was because we didn't have Sam Hughes at the back. He got injured against Doncaster and the goals just started flying in. He was keeping that backline together last season. And it's good to see him now playing a team that isn't right down the bottom of the table.
Yeah, you just mentioned there that the game against MK on Tuesday, 95th minute winner, Scott Twine, that we've had something similar, I wouldn't stress, with MK as well. What happened? Because you mentioned there that the lad had a couple of chances, Cummins made a couple of good saves, you were in the game, and then Scott Twine it is a bit magical at this level, isn't he? Well,
he's a little bit too magical to me. I think they should get rid of him.
Yeah, I think he should go to Forest. Yeah, I agree.
It's a bit like Matt O'Reilly going to Celtic. I'm very glad we didn't have to play him either. He'll be great to Celtic. I'll be honest, we rode our luck on Tuesday. MK were definitely the better side. You could see the level of quality with them. They're a playoff team at the moment. We're a mid-table side. You could notice the difference between us. At the same time, I think we could have nicked that, definitely, with the chance that Fella had made his way. Jebison was excellent up top. There wasn't quite the direct threat which we have. And I think part of that was Johnny Smith not being in the squad, who's the most direct runner in the team. And I hope he plays on Saturday, certainly. But Tom Amer misses a clearance and it falls to Scott Twine. And there's no other player in the MK Dons team you'd want a ball falling to on the volley from the edge of the box. He just does it. It's what Scott Twine does.
Yeah.
And so you're left a bit gutted because you're that close to getting a point off them and you end up with nothing. That's football for you.
Yeah, I think we went through something similar. Obviously, we went 2 goals up against them and they came back in the last couple of minutes. Saturday then, down at Sinsel Bank or the LNER. I know you're not that excited. You can tell by the look on your face. Just really want to get your thoughts on our sort of recent renaissance, if you can call it that, over the last sort of, I've heard you speak on the pod with James about it quite a bit, because he's a big Appleton man. What have you made of our last 4 or 5 games?
Well, it's definitely improvement, isn't there?
Yeah.
Definitely. I think I look at the business you guys have brought in. John Marquis, to me, is a very big one on that. Certainly. You've got a reliable goal getter there. I do think he's actually someone who could get even more. I remember in particular through his time at Doncaster, he was an absolute goal getter at League One level, but you look to his show reel and it does also include some pretty bad misses. So he probably could add even more onto what he would likely get for a League One team as well. And then the young lad from Eastleigh, Bradley House, was it?
Ben House.
Ben House, sorry, yes. James is quite a big fan of him, I've heard from Eastleigh. Not someone I've seen much of myself, but you kind of just trust Appleton with recruitment, don't you?
Yeah.
There's something about Lincoln. I do think, I don't really understand why Lincoln have been so far on the table anyway. I didn't have any expectation of this at all. But that period when you were down in the bottom 4 for me is long gone. This is the team I expect to be upwardly mobile. Top half is certainly possible at the end of the season. We'll see what happens with Lincoln.
Would you be surprised if Lincoln and Burton finish next to each other in the table?
No.
No,
not at all.
I think that's probably where we're aiming for, really. How are we expecting Saturday to go then? Are we expecting Burton to come down here? And, you said earlier that teams that are below us, we tend to go and win. Are you expecting
You're not that far below, though. And the other thing is, as I've been telling you time and time again, and the reason I don't want to do this, since you guys have come back up into non-league, you've brushed us aside at every opportunity.
Yeah.
So
there is that.
I've decided that until we don't lose to you, I'm not doing this anymore. If this ends in a Lincoln win, you're finding someone else next season. I'm not bothering this anymore.
Oh dear.
I'm fed up. It's Lincoln and Oxford I just can't stand playing at the minute.
Yeah.
Because they just have the better of us. They're just the way they play just really suits how we go.
Yeah. Are you expecting
I'm taking a point.
defeat?
Let's put it that way. I'm taking a point on Saturday if the opportunity comes.
I know you said you would take a point, but are you expecting Burton to come away with anything? Obviously, it's a game where it will be a tight game, Ed. I can imagine you'll come to Jimmy Floyd's, especially with his punditry, he's never really he's not scared to put his game plan onto anybody, I don't think, in this league. And I think, Saturday will be no exception. I expect you guys to come and try and win the game of football.
I would hope so. We've not fared well on the road at all. 3 away wins, if I'm right. That's against Shrewsbury, Fleetwood, and Gillingham.
Yeah.
One of which is in the relegation zone. The other 2 kind of a bit outside of it.
Yeah.
So we haven't really fared very well on the road at all, particularly for me against those strong sides up at the top. And to be honest, even though Lincoln aren't up at the top, I still consider them a strong team now after their January business. So I don't want to be negative, but I kind of am dreading this.
I'm going to.
We've got quite a nasty February coming up with some big trips as well. I don't really want to play Lincoln at the minute.
Wait, I'm going to push you for a score prediction, Ed. It's a good job this will go out before Saturday.
I really don't know. I want to be confident and say we're going to take something, so I'm going to go with a 2-2. Let's have some entertainment. Let's have some goals, because I think Lincoln, I don't think Lincoln really do 0-0s nowadays.
No,
I don't think you do that anymore.
I'm
aware you're quite. I've noticed you're quite a vulnerable team to set pieces, which we definitely need to capitalise on if we're going to get anything against you.
Yeah.
So there's the potential for that. Let's go 2-2.
I think the game at the Pirelli sort of showed that, didn't you? When you went 2-1 down, you literally just went aerial bombardment, and it was terrifying, to be honest. Anyway, good to talk to you again, Ed. Obviously, I mean, we might not see you next year based off what you've just said. Plug the podcast, because the podcast that you're on, the D3D4 podcast, is exceptional. The work that you guys do, feel free to plug that. I'm sure our listeners know who you are just by the sound of your voice.
Yep. So the podcast on roll with D3D4, as we say. We provide coverage to the lower leagues of English football that you just don't get from mainstream media. That's always the way we've felt. The lower leagues, League 1 and 2, produce so much excitement. You look at the top of the League 1 table, like around the top of the League 2 table, there's so much excitement, so much uncertainty, really. It's that kind of drama. And we love talking about that every single week. It's myself, James Richards, who's an Oxford fan. We've got David Jenkin on board, who is a Gillingham fan and absolutely loving life at the bottom of the table at the moment. I still think there's a bit of a pod curse that my first full season on the pod was Burton bottom of the table, and his first full season of the pod is Gillingham on the bottom of the table. And then I'll throw in Chris String as well, who's currently out in Antarctica, but will be back in March. He's an Oldham fan, so we've got 2 of our guys bottom of their respective leagues at the moment. I don't know how we've managed that, but it's gone quite well. I'd like to say we're professional, but we're not. We get very off track, but it's all a bit of a good ramble about the lower leagues, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I would recommend that anybody listening will go and listen to that podcast. It's out on Sunday morning this week.
We come out on Sunday mornings, yes.
Yeah, so you'll be able to listen to Ed talk about the game on Saturday.
I don't think we'll be one this week, to be perfectly honest with you.
Oh.
I don't think we're going to do that, which is a good thing, because I don't have to talk about Lincoln. And also, apparently, it's Gillingham v Oxford this weekend. Right. So I don't really want to put up with David and James going at each other for 90 minutes after a 0-0 draw. So I'm quite glad we're missing that as well. No, but we're normally regularly on every Sundays, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for coming on again. You're clearly very knowledgeable about what you do and all things Burton. Thank you for everybody else for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Share it with your friends. And we'll see you next week for another preview. Thank you very much for watching.